Absolutely.
Those
Get my sunnies.
balmy temperatures.
Well, let's kick off our news review. We're joined by friends in the studio this morning. Ava Santina-Evans, politics editor at Politics Joe, and Christian Calgie, senior political correspondent at The Express. Great to have your company this Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we kick off with the front page of The Times? Pressure on Keir Starmer. He's being told he needs to do a chemie and ditch Wes Streeting.
Yeah, I mean, this is just hilarious. As ever, Labour managed to wrestle the bad news back to themselves while they could have let the Tories and Reform beat each other up. Cabinet ministers have said that Wes Streeting's behaviour has striking parallels with the disloyalty of Robert Jenrick's. His leadership manoeuvring, taking attention away from the party leader. And so they're saying Keir Starmer should sack him. One said what he's doing is so obvious. He is repeatedly breaching collective responsibility, attacking Number 10 and undermining all of us. Another described it as wild behaviour and said that Wes is exactly the same as Robert Jenrick. If he doesn't become Labour Prime Minister, he will tell himself his entire life has been a failure. We can both relate to that, right? But spokesman for Keir Streeting said it's a real shame that Keir's so-called allies are briefing against Wes yet again when they should be talking about the fall in waiting lists.
Do you see parallels?
No, not really. I think Wes is... well, no, I mean, both of them are good. Both of them are young, both of them are fresh, both of them reply to my WhatsApp. So, you know, I'd like both of them to be Prime Minister, frankly. I think it's just ridiculous, and I don't know what these Cabinet Ministers were thinking that this is the time to brief this story. I mean, you'll note that of all the sort of major, you know, centre-right, right-wing papers, The Times is the only one to not really talk about the Jenrick Farage thing because it's been supplanted by this ridiculous briefing story.
Yeah, but Ava, you know, Streeting has been outspoken. He's not shy about how he feels.
Wes Streeting is another candidate who thinks that he might be bigger than the club. I think that this would be a huge problem for Keir Starmer if he were to kick him out of Cabinet, because this would give him time to corral support amongst backbenchers and form a potential leadership bid. And, you know, the race is really on because there is confidence lost in Keir Starmer and his premiership, and there are many groups who are looking for their next leader. You've got these different factions that are, you know, sort of looking around, and Andy Burnham is one of the more obvious favourites, Angela Rayner, Louise Haigh. If you give Wes Streeting the licence to be angry at the leadership, then, well, likely he'll just turn around to Blue Labour, or even Labour Together actually could be a group that would get behind Wes Streeting and say, let's get the ball rolling, and let's install me. And, you know, the chaos and the tumult of a leadership contest at this time, you know, you'd need 70 MPs to publicly declare they don't have confidence in the Prime Minister. That would be disastrous for the party at large.
Well, yeah, and where are we at in that conversation about whether or not Keir Starmer's likely to face a challenge after the May elections? There was a lot of talk that was going to be a key moment, a watershed moment, and the chances are the party would do badly, so there might be some kind of challenge then. Is that still what's being talked about at Westminster?
I would say that it's wavering. Sorry, did you...
No, go on.
I would say it's wavering. Keir Starmer has been doing some outreach projects, so he's been inviting some backbench MPs, many of whom it was thought he did not know the names of because there was this huge intake in the 2024 election, and they've all been invited to Downing Street, and you can sort of see them posting it on their Instagram stories, very excited that they've been invited for meetings. You know, it's amazing, isn't it? You know, like the sort of the Number 10 iconic door can really change people's mind about what they think about the overall policy of the party. So it's waning. I think that the May elections, particularly in Wales, will be a landmark moment, and you will hear a lot of noise, but I really doubt you're going to get 70 MPs to stand up against the Prime Minister this early on.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, and I've always been far more sceptical that there will be a challenge, successful or unsuccessful, against Keir Starmer because of those rules. I mean, they're just so much more... it's such a higher hurdle to clear for Labour MPs than it ever was for Tory MPs. You know, they needed 15%, right, to trigger a 1922 leadership ballot. 70 MPs to come out publicly behind a candidate as well, not just to go, we don't have faith, let's work out who. They've got to declare for Wes or for Rayner. And also just culturally... you know, Labour has always been far less regicidal than the Tories. Even when everything was going terribly for Gordon Brown, they never got rid of him in the way that the Tories, you know, even though we are in a much more angry, fast-moving pace of politics now with social media, you know, the Tories were doing leadership coups in, you know, in the 90s against John Major and then against IDS in the early 2000s. And Labour didn't against Gordon Brown in 2009. So it just thinks culturally
different. Make it uncomfortable
different.
for him, didn't he? You know, Peter didn't exactly make it easy for him.
That's true. That's going back in history.
Yeah.
I
love talking about Gordon Brown anytime you get the opportunity.
He once sent me a Christmas card many moons ago. Yeah, I was interviewing him.
I'm so jealous. That's wonderful.
It was written in a Sharpie. He signed it and there was a kiss. So my claim to fame. Many moons ago. Right, the front page of the Daily Mirror then. Calgie, straight in.
Yeah.
Farage can't be trusted with Britain.
Yes, John Healey once again reiterating or bringing up these claims that Farage and Reform are a threat to British security. John Healey said he wouldn't trust him with national security. And this is based on Nigel Farage saying that he wouldn't vote for a UK peacekeeping force to go to Ukraine. I think this is quite weak, actually, and I think Labour are wrong to press this point as political. Because, actually, I think Farage voices what a lot of ordinary people will think when they see these claims of a peacekeeping force. I mean, yes, I'm as pro-Ukraine as anyone, and I think there are much more sore points for Reform when it comes to this whole Russia issue. But on this point... I think Farage is right to suggest that what Keir Starmer promised with this coalition of the willing was a much greater sharing of the peacekeeping burden. And actually, Germany's fallen away, Italy's fallen away, and what we've been left with is the UK and France willing to put, 7,500 troops between them, which I don't think is enough, and it would actually be stretched very thin at a time where Keir Starmer is not putting forward a comprehensive plan to increase defence spending by the promised deadline. And these debates should be had. And I don't think that Labour merely turning around and saying it's unpatriotic or it's a threat to national security for politicians to be raising legitimate concerns is fair or good for the national debate.
I also just don't think it lands, because I think the argument that the Defence Secretary is attempting to make here is that Nigel Farage is sort of de facto in, you know, cahoots with Donald Trump, and there could be this potential invasion of Greenland. There could also be this pullback, as you were talking about there, of troops or expenditure in Ukraine. And, you know, Labour don't really have the best track record with being in kowtow to the US.
They are also hinting at connections with Russia or sympathies with Russia, aren't they?
Yeah, well, absolutely.
In the party, that's the other point.
They are.
Seems to be
it's a very confused. It's sort of like, you know, there's a spider web being drawn, isn't there? Sort of like, you know, whatever hits, you know, whatever sticks, they're sort of giving it a go. But, you know, if you look at the last Labour government, you look at what Tony Blair did with George Bush and the financial and the, you know, humanitarian drag that, you know, that we were pulled into because of that sort of kowtowing to America, I think it's a little bit weak to suggest that Farage is any different to that behaviour.
And also, if you think logically, as I say, you know, Germany and Italy are not willing to support the coalition of the willing with troops on the ground in Ukraine. So, by extension, is John Healey saying that Merz or Maloney are threats to European national security? I don't think they'd level that diplomatically.
You probably would say that in private about Maloney, to be fair.
Well, yeah.
Let's try and squeeze in one more story. Front of The Guardian, this is about Donald Trump's latest threats over Greenland.
Yeah, so Donald Trump has threatened to impose tariffs on countries that don't go along with his plan to annex Greenland, to put pressure on European allies. His special envoy has said that a deal for Washington to take over the island should and will be made, and also warned that the US president is serious about acquiring the territory, and it comes after a number of European countries put some fairly pathetic numbers of troops. We have sent one, which obviously will be make a huge difference, I think.
You'd be
But it's a
gutted,
really
wouldn't you,
tricky
if that's
one.
where you got sent.
A tricky one for Keir Starmer to handle, this one, isn't it? We've only got 20 seconds, actually, but quick thought.
I can say yes, if you'd like. I mean,
Yes.
what's Keir Starmer meant to do? Is he meant to stand up to Donald Trump and say you can't invade a sovereign nation? Probably, but I don't think he will be doing that anytime soon.
OK.
Thank you.
We're out of time. You'll be back in the next hour, though. Thanks very much indeed for now. Thank you.
Guys.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?